Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Trust the weekend was good. Ours was fun. I was trying to spot the space station flying across the night sky. Didn't manage to, but had a lovely weekend. It's very warm here and we've run out of water. Drought is really reaching into the urban centres. Macro thoughts, by far the world's best performing currency since Donald Trump won the US election. Why don't you have a guess? Of course, it's the Russian ruble. That chimes with my piece about Putin's parabolic rebound. China clamps down on banks moving currency overseas. Chinese regulators are stamping out moves by banks to shift renminbi out of the country as they attack one of the few loopholes remaining in the country's strict new capital controls regime. The tightening is another setback for the Chinese government's larger strategy of internationalizing its currency, a goal that has taken a backseat to stabilizing capital outflows and the renminbi's depreciation against the dollar. According to several people briefed on rules introduced this month, banks in Shanghai must import 100 renminbi for every 100 renminbi they allow a client to remit overseas, ensuring no net outflows of the Chinese currency. The clampdown goes even further in Beijing, where banks must import 100 renminbi for every 80 renminbi they remit overseas on behalf of clients. Bankers have also complained that the central bank and SAFE are only communicating regulatory window guidance over the phone or during face-to-face meetings rather than in writing. They added that SAFE has instructed banks not to inform clients why their overseas remittances are being rejected and is checking their net renminbi flows on a weekly basis. It's up to us to tell clients, sorry, we can't let you do the transfer, the bank added. But obviously the clients know what is going on. This is not a secret. And this is why I remain bullish about Bitcoin. Essentially, I think, you're going to see a continued demand for that particular cryptocurrency. Home thoughts, been reading some Shiva Naipaul, who was, of course, overshadowed by his elder brother V.S. Naipaul. I've been rereading Fireflies and also finishing off the Chip Gatherers, both beautiful books. The material, though it risked coming to him second-hand, was also Shiva's own. When approaching it, as he did in his first novel, Fireflies, he had to, among other things, pretend his brother's acclaimed 1961 novel, A House for Mr. Biswas, didn't exist, and produce out of the same richly visited terrain his own masterpiece. The story covers the same ground that Biswas did, a young woman baby from an all-powerful Hindu family, the Kojas, is married off to an outsider, Ram Luchman, a bus driver of no particular social status. Luchman, a little man, is a sort of prototype of, an antithesis to, Biswas, to modernism's little man. It's really very good. A little bit bittersweet at times, I must say. This is already the iciest photo we'll see on inauguration. What a remarkable photograph. President Obama exiting the White House caught in shadow. Powerful stuff. And then I couldn't resist this because I couldn't work out what it was for. So chaque every 21st January, une menu spécial guillotine. And it took me back to who was that artist who put a cow's head in formaldehyde. Sold it for millions of dollars. Turning final for Brise as the sun sets. Lovely shot, just telling you what the pilot's looking at. Political reflections. After brief remarks, President and Mrs. Trump danced their first dance to the song My Way. Indeed, it was his way. Take a look at this link on YouTube that I've posted. Go to 1 minute and 45 seconds, and a tear comes to Donald Trump's eyes. Everyone that I speak to is convinced that he and Melania have a very frozen relationship. We'll discover that, I suppose, as things go on. Historical hinge points are not always discernible in real time, but America's dizzying leap from Obama to Trump is an obvious one. This is Politico magazine. Historical hinge points are not always discernible in real time, but America's dizzying leap from Obama to Trump, from the first black president to the leader of the movement that questioned his citizenship, from a globalist who pushed an opening with Asia to a populist who echoes the angry rhetoric of ethno-nationalists in Europe, is an obvious one. Trump did mouth a few of the traditional pieties expected of new presidents, thanking Obama for his magnificent assistance during the transition, calling his oath of office an oath of allegiance to all Americans. But he went on to describe America as a hellscape where the Washington establishment has declared war on the public, creating a land of lost jobs, struggling families, mothers and children trapped in poverty in our inner cities, rusted out factories scattered like tombstones across the landscape of our nation, an education system that is flush with cash but leaves our young and beautiful students deprived of all knowledge. And the crime, he continued, and the gangs and the drugs that have stolen too many lives and robbed our country of so much unrealized potential. This American carnage stops right here. Stops right now, he said. Let me put up a photograph that was taken of a painting on a wall in Mexico. A policeman walks in front of a graffiti against US President Donald Trump in Mexico. That's AFP. Now, of course, the big scandal, or the big issue, was this intervention by the new press secretary, who claimed that there were more people at President Trump's inauguration than there was at President Obama's. And of course, then everybody started to post those two inaugurations side by side. And there's really no argument that there were more people at President Obama's inauguration. And it's mind-boggling that the president is getting so fixated with these points. And the extraordinary situation, we saw an extraordinary situation where Kellyanne Conway says the White House press secretary, Sean Spicer, didn't lie about the crowd size at Trump's inauguration. He gave alternative facts. That's just extraordinary. And that took me back to Chico Marx in Duck Sou in 1933, when he says, "Who you going to believe, me or your own eyes?" Schumer says Trump is using populism to cover up hard right agenda. I think he's correct. Steinmeier of Germany, with the election of Trump, the old world of the 20th century is gone. What the world of tomorrow will look like is yet unclear, he says. Wall Street Journal is breaking the story that the current National Security Advisor is under counterintelligence investigation for ties to Russia. Counterintelligence agents have investigated communications by President Trump's National Security Advisor, including phone calls to the Russian ambassador in late December. From there, I jump back to President Obama and something he said at the time of his first election. He says, "I serve as a blank screen on which people of vastly different political stripes project their own views." And I think this is particularly important in this new trend change we're seeing in Africa. And I think, those sorts of candidates, Adama Barrow is a good example, have a real shot. 3 years ago, one of the most incredible pictures of Euromaidan, taken on the 20th of January 2014 in Kiev. Of course, this is something that President Putin felt very angry about, and he brought it up again when he spoke about how opponents to Donald Trump were trying to do their own Maidan in Washington. I was also reading some Chester Himes. Martyrs are needed to create incidents. Incidents are needed to create revolutions. Revolutions are needed to create progress. Bianca Jagger, the party told you to reject all evidence with your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command, George Orwell, 1984. Russian Tu-22M3 strategic bombers annihilated Daesh targets in Deir ez-Zor. You will notice that they've been pinned down, and this was the strategy, I think, of the Russians to pin the rebels down, and now they're doing bombing runs on them. There are reports in the Hebrew media that the White House will announce the Jerusalem embassy move as early as today. It doesn't seem like that now, but this could very well be the equivalent of throwing a match on a fire, on a tinderbox. The founding dilemma of Indian Ocean Studies: too many written languages for any individual scholar to master. LA Review of Books. And then let me leave you with this from London, NYC: La La Land, the sequel could be interesting. Let's move on to the markets. Donald Trump preaches angry nationalism while practicing Goldman Sachs capitalism, says The Intercept. President Trump's inaugural address was fiery and nationalistic, a considerable departure from the traditional Republican Party embrace of the free market and an activist foreign policy. Trump talked of America First policy and vowed that January the 20th, 2017 will be remembered as the day the people became the rulers of this nation again. But Trump's words on the steps of the Capitol bore little resemblance to the reality of the administration he's building. And proof of that very point is in the share price performance of Goldman Sachs since November the 8th. Take a look at this. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro dollar 107.43, dollar index 100.81, Japanese yen 113.30, Swiss franc below parity 0.9988, pound 124.35, the Australian dollar 0.7571, India rupee 68.045, South Korean won 1167.70, Brazilian real 316.95, Egyptian pound 18.7675, and the rand, about which I'm bullish, and I'll explain it again in a moment, below 13.50. So we've seen dollar sell-off after Trump's remarks on Friday. Dollar index, I'll put up a 3-month chart. The key area of support is 99.50. Euro dollar, I'll put up a 1-year chart. We're sort of grinding higher here. We could go all the way back to 110 before we come back down again. Commodity markets, gold 12.15.55. That, I must say, caught me entirely on the wrong side, but I continue to believe that that my Bitcoin, long Bitcoin, short gold trade is going to come off. Record longs in WTI, that's in WTI crude. Have a look at this from Javier Blas. Crude oil last trading at $53.14. You remember my call for it not to go above $60 this year. Base metals have been on a tear, and look at this comparison with precious metals from Bloomberg Commodities. Moving on to Sub-Saharan Africa, Adama Barrow, president of the Gambia for 4 days, still can't get there, apparently. President Jammeh of Gambia, I wrote in December, is in the departure lounge. I was saying Africa is not a country, has become a popular meme on social media, but it makes an important point about the non-linearity of the continent. That non-linearity should not obscure what looks like a significant political trend change. The LSE for Business, in their report, The Commodity Price Rout in Africa's Unusual Electoral Cycle, said this: it would seem elections in the region are at a tipping point. The traditional incumbent re-election bias is at a historic low, and the ground is fast shifting beneath the feet of the political establishment. What has triggered the turn of the tide, they ask? And I try to answer it by saying the African demographic dividend has metasized into a demographic terminator across many parts of sub-Saharan Africa, and the first signal was emitted from Ouagadougou with the termination of beautiful Blaise Compaoré in 2014. Since then, President Goodluck in Nigeria, now President Mahama in Ghana, have exited stage left. President Jammeh of Gambia is also in the departure lounge. Africa being non-linear, we've seen events unfold at the opposite end of the spectrum. For example, in Kinshasa, where President Kabila has managed to fend off the pressure from the streets and string things along. Ethiopia, which is very much the sub-Saharan African economic poster child, has had to impose a state of emergency. One senses that we have now entered a period when the demographic bulge is arriving at voting age, and this moment of enfranchisement is a revolutionary one. This is a moment of significant political friction, and ground-level intelligence is going to be at a premium. Counterintuitively, South Africa, with its entrenched institutions, looks significantly less politically risky than many other sub-Saharan African countries. The Gambia standoff is over as Jammeh leaves State House and goes into exile, a fine moment for ECOWAS indeed. People celebrate in the streets of Banjul after hearing of departure of former Gambian leader Yahya Jammeh, that's from the AFP. In a rising tide floats all boats environment, the importance of good policy making is diluted. But now poor policy making is being amplified. Policy making is a factor for investors in a low growth environment, means it will have an outsized impact on returns. South African asset prices have of course been battling a Zuma haircut, which began to ebb into year-end 2016. The Rand closed the year plus 11%. As investors started to factor in Pravin Gordhan's fight back against rogue policy making. South African oil shares had a strong start to the year. It's up 3.71% this year. Dollar versus Rand, I'm bullish the Rand, we're just below 13.50. Egyptian pound is at 18.7675. I think it's a buy above 19. The fundamental paradox at the heart of President Buhari's government is the Naira. Investors are sidelined, waiting for President Buhari's moment of epiphany. Nigerian oil shares down 2.42% this year. I'm bullish about the Ghana because I think the President of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, is saying all the right things. And Ghana looks primed to move from a policy-making haircut to a policy-making premium. Ghana Stock Exchange is up 4.15% this year. Ignacio Magnani, Earth from Space, Tanzania, Mount Kilimanjaro, what a fabulous photograph. And then GG, this is Georgina Goodwin, Aerial Angaruka Basin, Tanzania's North Rift. She's talking about climate change and desertification. Mozambique's Eurobond strategy may damage restructure prospects. You can say that again. Mozambique missed a near $60 million coupon payment on Jan 18 for its $727 million of Eurobonds issued in March, prompting S&P Global Ratings to cut its assessment of Mozambique to selective default. Mutiny drives world's worst bond losses in Ivory Coast. Political risk seems to be hounding bond investors wherever they go. In Ivory Coast, the world's largest producer of cocoa, mutiny in the army has destabilized the government, sending its debt to the world's worst performance. Coming here to Kenya, Sasini Tea and Coffee reported its full year earnings. Let me go through that. Revenue was up strongly, up 28.157%. Profit before tax was down 1.77%, but they had a big tax charge compared to previously. The tax charge increased by 517%, reducing profit after tax by 30.817%. Earnings per share, 3 shillings and 39 cents versus 4 shillings and 27 cents last time. Price earnings ratio is an undemanding 5.22. Cash and cash equivalents up big time to 1.95 billion shillings. Company commentary, 11,108 tons of made tea compared with 8,578. So you can see big surge in production. Average price realized $1.89, so marginally higher than the previous year. Coffee, they produced 944 tons. Big surge in tea production. It's a cheap share on a PE of 5.22. Tea prices also hit a 2-year high after rising 6.3% in last week's auction in Mombasa. Announcement of 12 branch closures by the Bank of Africa Group. As I said before, in August 2016, this is a Schumpeter moment for banking According to Schumpeter, the gale of creative destruction describes the process of industrial mutation that incessantly revolutionizes the economic structure from within, incessantly destroying the old one, incessantly creating a new one. My piece over the weekend was about Base Titanium. Base Titanium released its quarterly activities report, December 2016, last week in Nairobi. Base Resources share price closed at a 26-month high of 25 Australian cents and has rallied an extraordinary 640% over a 12-month period. It was totally bombed out this time a year ago. The highest price was clocked in March 2013 when the commodity markets were in full swing, and that price was 53 cents. Base Titanium mines mineral sands at Kwale. Mineral sands produce the following. Titanium dioxide is used as white pigment in paints, plastics, paper, and even edibles, constituting the single greatest use of titanium worldwide. Zircon's primary use is the production of ceramic tiles, but also in more exotic applications such as foundry casings, nuclear fuel rods, or water purification systems, to name just a few. The main uses for rutile are the manufacture of refractory ceramic as a pigment and for the production of titanium metal. Mineral sands are an esoteric corner of the commodities markets. Transactions are typically bilateral. I was introduced to Tim Carstens, the CEO of Base Resources, by the then Australian High Commissioner Jeff Tooth, and I watched him up close and personal, and can say at this time Mr. Carstens has proven he has the wherewithal to navigate multiple complex and even asymmetric environments simultaneously. During this period, Base Resources has had to navigate a boom and a bust in the commodities markets, a very nascent mining environment here in Kenya, having to shape it and make sure that there weren't any major curveballs that came out. And I have to give credit to Tim and to the Cabinet Secretary Dan Kazungu, who both never lost sight of the national interest and simultaneously keep the whole show financed at an international level. Rutile is responsible for 50% of the revenue, but only 15% of volume, and therefore bulk rutile sales have a significant impact on revenues. Ilmenite prices rallied an eye-popping 40% in the fourth quarter last year, and prices for Base Resources ilmenite have increased by over 100% between May and December 2016. Base ramped up production with ore mined, clocking 3.049 million tonnes in December versus 2.101 million tonnes in the previous year. Average revenue per tonne clocked $250 per tonne versus $200 in the previous quarter. Base is surfing the price rebound and extracting more value by optimizing production. Interestingly, Kenya exported $16 million of titanium to the US 10 months ago, 10 months through 2016, just a little behind tea, which clocked $18 million for the same dates. That is called a diversification of our exports basket right there. The rising tide of production and prices helped Base reduce its net debt by $18.1 million to $129.5 million. This remarkable performance will lead to higher royalty payments for the government of Kenya, but it's important to look at Base not through a royalty prism alone. Base reminds me of a moon landing. It's planted the mining flag in the Kenyan soil. Kenya did not have a mining sector before Base Titanium, and in the future Base's modus operandi will be a calling card for its expansion across the continent. They are looking at a property just south of Tanga in Tanzania. Given how aggressive President Magufuli can be, I would be surprised if he has not pounced on Tim yet. Base has an outstanding safety record. Kwale operations lost time injury frequency remains at 0. Base Resources employees and contractors have now worked 8.2 million man-hours LTI free, with the last LTI recorded in the March quarter of 2014. It is Base which is seeking to revitalize the cotton value chain as its contribution towards creating a sustainable economy after the mine lives has expired. At every step, Base has been ahead of the curve, and I'm certain that the ROI for the local community is off the charts. I'll put up a photograph of the baobab tree base resources protected when they were digging. And a photograph of Jeff Tooth, who's back in Tasmania, I think, with Tim Carstens a few years ago. Kenya's shilling strengthening, 103 last I looked, and that's because the dollar's coming off the boil. And then the Nairobi All-Share down 6.97% this year, NSE 20 down 8.55% this year. So neither have based out yet, but I think we're pretty close to it in my view. Once again, thank you for stopping by. Wishing you a wonderful week.